What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Twilight Nine podcast. This is episode 25. I'm your host, Riley. This week, we have controversy. We got a lot to talk about. Patrick Reed obviously wins the Farmers Insurance Open, but with an asterisk. I don't think an asterisk maybe because he won the thing by 5. But another cheating scandal from Mr. Reed. So we're going to cover all of that. We're going to talk about Tony, obviously continuing this streak of top 10 finishes. We're going to talk about Xander kind of on his own little run that Tony's going on. Viktor Hovland, recapping with my guy, Rory, who kind of shit the bed on the last 4 holes of the tournament. Going to talk about all that. Going to recap the betting that we had, the bets that we had last week on the T9 card show. We did pretty well. We would have had a huge week if Rory didn't choke on the last 4 or 5 holes. We would have had a very, very good week, but we're going to go over all of that. I'm going to cover Will Zalatoris, if that's how you pronounce your name, buddy. And then we're going to end the show like we always do every week with a in-depth preview of this week's Waste Management Phoenix Open, the People's Open without the people. Usually home to like 500,000 to 700,000 people total over the 4 days of the tournament play. This year, that is not the case. There's only going to be 5,000 people, I think, on the 16th hole. So we're going to do a preview of that, in-depth preview, and then end the show with our betting, with all the betting information that you guys need for the week, data golf, key stats, all that kind of stuff. Pretty normal show this week, but we have a lot to talk about. So let's jump right into it. First with the headlines, Paul Casey gets the W at the Dubai Desert Classic. He won that thing by 4 shots after finishing in the top 10 last week at the American Express. Had a good start stateside, then went over to Dubai and gets the win. He was playing very good golf. He was in kind of my top 5 guys to watch over there for that classic, and he gets it done. My other guys, Tommy had an okay week, I guess. Morikawa, again, like okay. Nothing spectacular from those guys. But yeah, he gets another European Tour win. He's racking them up, man. Doesn't have a bunch stateside, but he is racking them up on the Euro Tour. Second headline, Rory McIlory nominated to be a PGA Tour Player Advisory Council Chairman. So that's huge for Rory. Had to bring it up because that's my guy. This is a Rory McIlory podcast, so I had to bring that up, but congrats to Rory. That's pretty cool. That's it for the headlines. Only a couple. So let's jump right into the Farmers Insurance Open, and let's talk about Patrick Reed and, again, Rory, because they were kind of in the same situation. So, again, Patrick Reed gets the win at the Farmers by 5 shots over guys like Tony Finau was there at T2, Xander, Viktor Hovland. Viktor Hovland choked also kind of down the stretch. He was 1 back of the lead. He was tied for the lead at one point, and then just had a pretty bad back 9. Couldn't birdie par 5s, had one go. That was actually pretty funny. He had one go in the waist area, had to take a drop at a red hazard, and then the rules official just kept making him drop the ball just over and over and over again. I think he probably dropped the ball 9 times before it went to rest. Crazy that's one of the stupidest rules in golf. But yeah, he didn't have a great back 9. But let's get into the Patrick Reed thing and what happened before we get into all the stats and all that kind of stuff. So during the 3rd round, Patrick Reed hit a ball greenside left on the 10th hole. And he walked up to it, and the first thing that he asked the volunteer was, did it bounce? And she said no. So in his mind, it was wet at Torrey Pines. In his mind, there was a chance that the ball was embedded. And by that means it hit the ground and pierced the ground, that the ball is stuck, embedded in the ground. Usually when you pull the ball up, it has mud on it and all that kind of stuff. So she said no. Then he checks to see if the ball was embedded by picking it up. And then he started kind of playing around with the spot, and then he asked the official to come over to check it to get his opinion, even though the ball's like in his hand. It was just really messy. Like I don't know what he was thinking. His past is definitely influencing the way that people are taking this, right? He's been kind of known as a quote-unquote cheater on the PGA Tour. He's one of those guys. If it was, I think, what was it? It was Tiger's tournament down the Bahamas a couple years ago, I think, and he was in one of the bunkers, and then on one of his practice swings just took out a mound of sand that was behind his ball, and it was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And now it comes to this where in his mind there was a chance that it was embedded just because the volunteer didn't see it bounce, and she just said no. But then instead of asking for a rule official to come over right away, he's playing around with the ball, picks it up, checks it, plays around with the hole, and that's where it gets a little sketchy. right? And the tour guys did not like it. Xander, after his round on Sunday, said, obviously, the talk amongst the boys isn't great, which means the tour players are not very happy with Patrick Reed right now. And they're normally not very happy with Patrick Reed. Aside from the 1 year where he carried the Ryder Cup team, it's been kind of downhill from that. Captain America with Jordan Spieth, all that. And then he sucked in the next Ryder Cup. And then he's been doing this bullshit for like 3 or 4 years. And it's just crazy that it just keeps digging himself a deeper and deeper hole. And at one point, the tour is going to have to step in and be like, Patrick, you can't do this bullshit anymore, because if they kind of keep letting it slide, he's just going to keep doing it. There's no repercussions for it. He's just continuing to do it. And you got to think about the Rory situation too. Same thing. He was on 18 on Saturday, and he was laying up, I believe, from the fairway or the right rough, I forget, or maybe even the left side of the fairway. Anyway, that doesn't matter. His ball went short of the green, 70 yards short of the green in the rough, and his bounced straight up. And you can't really tell on the video if it bounced back into the pitch hole or whatnot, but he was also told that the ball didn't bounce. So in his mind, it's embedded. And he goes up right away and said, hey guys, my ball's embedded. And then asked Sabatini, hey, what's the rule here? And then he said club length, immediately picks the ball up, tees it up, takes the drop, and then plays on. The difference in this scenario is Rory immediately knew it was embedded, and he didn't take any time. With Reed, he saw it, he was playing around with it, he was picking it up, couldn't make the decision. Then he asked for a second opinion from the official. So it's kind of the same scenario, just handled two way different ways. Immediately, Rory said embedded, blah, blah, blah. The only thing about Rory that you could criticize is embedded is definitely a very big advantage, because when the ball's that far into the rough, deep into the rough, it is impossible to get out of. So when it's embedded, you get a free drop from your knee now, so it doesn't go all the way down in the rough. Not a fluffy lie. Nothing at Torrey Pines is really fluffy, but you get a way better lie. Even Rory's drop, he didn't even get it to the green. It was short. So that's kind of the difference, where it was kind of an immediate thing with Rory. Patrick Reed was not immediate. He was playing around with the ground, blah, blah, blah. You can criticize Rory because he didn't ask an official, right? I feel like with the embed rule, you kind of have to have an official there, because the official is going to immediately come over and say, oh yeah, that bad boy's in the ground, pull it up, take a drop, let's go. That's the only thing Rory didn't do. I think his was embedded. He's my guy, so I'm gonna say that. I think he was embedded just because he was so fast with it. Like, if he wasn't 100% sure, he's taken worse rulings in the past. Like Pepper, I think it was at the PGA Championship, like stepped on his ball greenside, so he was able to take a drop, and you're supposed to recreate it, and he dropped it, and he was like, that wasn't as bad as I think it was, so I'm gonna push it down a little bit further. Like, that's the kind of guy Rory is. So I think his was actually embedded. That's why history kind of comes into it, because then we get to, again, where Reed is, not great when it comes to ruling. So you just have to think about that. But I think he was in a tough spot. He could have handled it way better, just because, sorry, my phone's ringing, just because you need to call an official over there first, especially if you don't think it's embedded. Like, if you don't know 100% that it's embedded, you got to call an official over. So he was put in a tough spot just because the volunteer said that it didn't bounce. So immediately when he's walking up to it, he didn't think it bounced. So that's kind of the scenario. I don't know what to think about it, to be honest with you. I think he could have handled it a lot better. I don't think he was supposedly trying to cheat and look like a shithead, but that's how it came off, especially with this history. So that's what happened on Saturday. Kind of in a bad spot, but what are you going to do? But like I said last week on the show, and he was one of my guys to watch last week, and I knew he was in for a very good week just because of his short game, and that's kind of what stood out. It's ridiculous how good that guy's short game is. He's ranked, he ranked tied for 63rd in greens of regulation this week. Over the last 30 years, 0.7% of winners on tour have ranked 63rd or worse that week in greens in regulation. Ridiculous. This guy's short game. He obviously ranked first in the field strokes gained around the green, and nearly gaining 4 strokes on the field this week with his short game. Ridiculous. Approach-wise, he was middle of the pack, and off the tee was 31st. So his short game definitely helped him out. He's one of the best putters on tour. He hit back-to-back 40-footers on 6 Saturday and Sunday, which very much helped. On Sunday, I think he hit eagle from 40-something feet, and on the next hole, he hit like a 30-something for birdie. So his short game around the green is absurd how good that is. And with this win for the Ryder Cup, there's 6 guaranteed spots. So the captain, there's 8 guys on the team. The captain chooses the last 2, but the first 6 are determined by a point system. With this win, Reed jumps into that last spot, that 6th guaranteed spot to be on the Ryder Cup team. He's got it. So that's huge for him. Obviously, he's done very well for the U.S. in Ryder Cups before. So we'll see if he stays on the team. If he continues having a really good year, he's going to be there. It's going to be interesting, man, because you have to have a good locker room at the Ryder Cup. And if he keeps doing this shit, or even if guys kind of hold a grudge against this one, that could be a messy locker room. So we'll have to see what happens with Patrick Reed, but his 9th win. He's a win away from being a double-digit winner on the PGA Tour, which is ridiculous to think about that he's won that many times. You kind of forget he's won at Liberty National. He's won the Masters. He won at Torrey Pines. He wins at big boy golf courses, and he gets it done, man. He's a grinder. So congratulations, Patrick, even though you probably cheated. Moving on. Tony Finau. This is just becoming hilarious at the point we are with Tony Finau right now. So we have to talk about it. Since his last win, he has finished inside the top 10 36 times. And we talked about it last week. At the time, it was 35. And then 36 after this week. That would have been the easiest bet of all time. I don't know why that wasn't on the T9 card. That should have been, because Tony Finau was a guaranteed top 10 last week, and I don't know why we didn't take it. Tied for second with Xander and all those boys. Those 36 times, since his last win, top 10 36 times, and has amounted $18 million in tour earnings without winning. This guy, if you only throw a couple wins into that mix, you're talking mid $20 million, crazy. So this guy is just a money printer. He was 10 under on 18. Reed was 13 under, I believe, at the time. So if you make birdie or maybe even eagle, you're posting a number that Patrick has to think about coming down the stretch, right? If you're at 13 and you're standing on 18 and somebody's in the clubhouse at 12, that makes you think you need to make a par. Tony gets his driving iron out. He hits the fairway, great drive up the right-hand side, avoids the bunker, and then puts his driving iron in the water, ends up making double, and then no one else was kind of closing. Victor Hovland, again, was kind of a crapshoot down the stretch, and Reed just lollygagged his way to a W. So Tony failed to make him think at the end, especially even with a birdie. If you're at 11 under, maybe Reed makes a bogey late, then you need to make par, right? To not go to a playoff. You just need to put that in his head, and Tony couldn't do it. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Tony. He's not in Phoenix, which is kind of surprising just because he's played very well there in the past. He lost in a playoff, which we'll talk about later, to Webb last season. So he's played very well. He's playing very well. I think this week could have been the week to him finally get a W. Can take advantage of his length down at TPC Sawgrass, but we're not going to see him. So that's kind of a surprise, but he would have been on my card for sure. He would have been top 10 for sure. I'm not missing out on that again. But it's just laugh out loud funny that this is becoming a thing with him, but we'll see. The next guy, one of my guys, Xander, the most quiet, tied for second, I think, maybe of all time. Hasn't finished outside the top 25 since the RBC Heritage. If you guys don't know when that took place in June. That is the last time he finished outside the top 25. Ridiculous. Inside the top 40 in every single stroke gain category on tour this season. 36th off the tee, 25th in approach, 19th around the green, 9th putting, 8th tee to green, 2nd total. Outrageous golf that he's playing right now. He hasn't won since the Tournament of Champions back in 2019, so it's been over 2 years since he's won. So he's kind of getting into that, not as bad as Rory, because Rory's entering that, right? It's been, a year and a half since he won, but he's slowly kind of turning into that guy that is just you look up at the leaderboard, not paying attention, and then all of a sudden you just see Xander Schauffele and he's 2 back or 3 back or 4 back, but he's in the top 10. He's slowly becoming one of those guys. He's going to have to close one of these weeks. He wasn't even mentioned on TV until the back 9 on Sunday. And all of a sudden you're watching the golf tournament and you're just oh, Xander's in this one too. It's insane. Many people, people on Twitter didn't even know he was in the tournament. That's how little they showed Xander Schauffele or even talked about Xander. And he tied for second, another top 5 finish. It's ridiculous. He is in the field this week for the Waste Management, so he's going to have to be on the card somewhere just because his play of late has been absurd. Probably a top 10, depending on the value we can get him for. But yeah, man, Xander Schauffele, holy shit, playing some golf. Will Zalatoris, however you pronounce. I'm just going to call him Will Z just because I don't know how to pronounce his name. He grabbed a T7. Since the beginning of 2020, since the beginning of 2020, he has 14 top 10s. That's the most of anyone on tour. He's an unreal ball striker, fantastic driver of the golf ball. He has a very awkward putting stroke. He takes it back, and Faldo was talking about it on the TV coverage. I think it was actually Sunday, where he doesn't take it back that far because he thinks the more you take it back, the more can go wrong, which I actually agree. But it makes it really awkward because even with like a 40-foot putt, he takes it like 6 inches back and then just hammers the club head through. So it's very awkward to watch. Like, it's not even Brandt Snedeker X is even shorter than that. It's not even a pop stroke. It's kind of like just a shove. So it's very awkward to watch. He's okay on the greens. It works for him, but his ball striking is absurd. And he's also in the field this week for Phoenix, so he's going to be a guy that we definitely watch just because of his recent play. I don't think he's played here before, but unreal ball striker, man, and that's what is very important, which we'll go over here in a minute. At the Waste Management, you need to be a good ball striker, tee to green, and he kind of fits that code. And then we got to talk about my guy. We got to round up the recap with my guy, Rory McIlory, T16. Man, did he fuck us with that bet. Man, I was actually very upset about that. Despite hitting less than 43% of fairways, which is terrible, he could not hit a fairway. He ranks second in strokes gained off the tee just because of his distance. He was 43rd on the greens. His wedge game needs to be better. His proximity is awful. He was hitting wedges middle of the fairway, 135, needs a little draw, even though for some reason he likes going back to this little cut thing, even though he can't. He's like swiping across the golf ball. He hits a wedge to like 40 feet, and then you stick a 4-iron in his hand off the next tee, a 230-yard par 3, and he puts it like 15 feet. Like, his proximity makes no sense. Next time they get to the range, Harry's got to take everything out of his bag, except for the pitching wedge, a 52 and a 56, and just say, hit these for 4 hours until you can dial in some distances, because it's ridiculous. He's in the field this week in Phoenix. He's never played here before. His distance is going to help here. We'll go over him during the betting segment because I'm not going to bet on him, because that's what we do on this podcast. We bet on Rory McIlroy. But he's going to be able to take advantage of length. Accuracy isn't super important here, so who knows how he's going to play in Phoenix, but we'll see. Let's go over the rest of the bets that we had for the Farmers Insurance. We had Rory top 10. That was a miss. He made double on 15 and then failed to birdie the 18th, the last hole of the tournament, par 5. All we needed was a birdie at the last hole, and that would have been a top 10 finish, and we would have been, I think that was plus 125, so that would have been sick, but nope. Taylor Gooch, top 40, missed that one too. 77 on Saturday, killed that one, and he didn't do anything on Sunday. He was 2 shots outside the top 40. I think he was T48, but he needed 2 more shots, so that one wasn't too close. Max Homa, super easy hit. He finished T18. We had him for a top 40. That hit at plus 150. He played great golf, and he's playing great golf. He's going to be in the betting segment later in the show. He's 14th strokes gained tee to green, 8th in approach. So he just had a very, very good week this week. Mark Leishman, top 20. We hit that one too, plus 175. That was a nail biter coming down to the stretch. He needed birdie on 18 to finish in the top 20, and he needed to lay up. So we needed a close wedge from like 75 yards, and he put his little pitch to, I think, 2 feet, a little over 2 feet. So that was gigantic. I think those guys actually came exactly tied for 20 at T20, Mark and Max. So that's a big hit. Cameron Davis had a sweat in 2, top 40, hit plus 100. He was outside the top 40 when he stood on the 18T, and then he made eagle for a comfy top 40 finish, so plus 100. And then Matty Wolf, I had him for a top 40. He was playing terrible golf, and I was very nervous about it. And then he had a hand injury and had a WD. So that one comes back to us. So of the 5 bets that stood, we hit 3 of them. Overall, we were plus 225 or plus 2.25 units on the for the Farmers, which is pretty good. We would have had a monster week if Rory just birdies 18 or doesn't double 15. We would have been plus 450 if Rory didn't do any of that, so that would have been awesome. But he kind of screwed us. So plus 225 for the week, which is good. Back-to-back winning weeks. I think we're plus 3 units over the last 2 weeks, which is pretty solid. We'll keep that. And on that note, let's move on to the Waste Management Phoenix Open preview, in-depth betting, all that kind of stuff. Let's get into it. Like I said, it's the People's Open without any of the people. Usually, I think in 2018, they set a record for hosting more than 700,000 people. That was the last time they estimated attendance. This year, it's going to look a lot different, and it's a bummer, man. That 16th is electric. Those boozed up guys that don't really, half those people there don't even care care about golf. They just go there to get hammered. And because of COVID-19 protocols, only 5,000 fans will be able to occupy the stands on the 16th, which sucks. That's only 25% of what it normally holds. So that's going to be a bummer. Webb Simpson is returning as the defending champion. I already mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but he beat Tony Finau in a playoff last season. And then Ricky, the 2019 champion, is also in the field, but his odds are a long shot. He's plus 5,000 to get a second win here. So we'll see. I don't know. He played decent golf at the Farmers. He made the cut and then didn't do much after that. I think he was like a T50 something finish. So he didn't do too much, but he showed flashes over the last couple of weeks that his game is kind of rounding. Hopefully he played decent at the American Express. So we'll see what happens with Ricky. I'm not 100% sure he's going to be on the card just because I don't know if the value's there yet for a top 30 finish, but we'll get into it. The rest of the field, Rory, again, is making his first start at TPC Scottsdale. John Rahm is here. Justin Thomas, who's definitely going to be on the card. Brooks Koepka, who is not. And Hideki Matsuyama is also here. He's won twice. The course, TPC Scottsdale, is a par 71, plays at 7,200 yards. That's based on the championship scorecard yardage. Designer was Tom Weiskopf and Jay Morrish. The greens overseeded with bent grass and POA. They're dormant. I forget Bermuda. They're dormant Bermuda, and then they overseed with bent grass and POA. So we'll see on the greens. Putting is obviously important every week. So, I mean, Webb Simpson's a great putter. Hideki's won here twice, and I am a 10 times better putter than Hideki is, and he's won here twice. So we'll see. It's kind of a crapshoot when it comes to TPC Scottsdale and the putting. And this course could not be more TPC. Bland, very boring. Nothing is interesting about this golf course until like the 14th hole. Maybe like the last 5 holes are fine. But man, is this a boring ass golf course. Everything is the same. Fairways a bit wider than they are at Torrey Pines, which is kind of obvious. Torrey Pines has needle thick fairways. And the rough definitely isn't as penalizing. It's not that long and it kind of sits up a little bit. So driving accuracy definitely isn't going to be like as important as it was last week with those skinny fairways. The weather Thursday, this is the most Scottsdale thing I'm ever going to read. Weather Thursday, sunny, 69 degrees, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Friday, sunny, 67, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Saturday, sunny, 70 degrees, 7-mile-an-hour winds. Sunday, sunny, 74 and 6-mile-an-hour winds. So the weather is not going to be a factor, at least as of now. I know last year the wind picked up on Sunday and they got a little bit of rain, so it was a little bit tougher, but the guys should be able to score. With this weather condition, I am predicting probably high teen will probably win. If I had to guess, if I had to throw out a prediction for that, I think a high teen is probably going to win. So the guys are going to have to make a lot of birdies. Key stats for this week: strokes gained tee to green is going to be huge. Ball strikers win this event. Very good ball strikers win this event. Webb last year, Hideki, one of the best ball strikers on the planet, has won here twice. So those kind of guys win here. Gary Woodland has won here before. Ricky Fowler is usually a good ball striker. He's won here. So that's what it takes at this course. And then kind of a minor one is going to be driving distance. So bombers have won here. Accuracy guys have won here in the past. It's kind of a mixed bag. But with distance, you can definitely kind of outdrive some of the bunkers, some of the hazards you can get out in front of. And then again, like I said, bombers can kind of spray it a little bit, and the consequence isn't going to be as bad as like a Torrey Pines where you kind of stuck in the rough and you kind of have to hack it out. You can attack pins from the rough at TPC Scottsdale. So just bomb it down there and just kind of hope for the best. That's why I think Rory can kind of bounce back in this spot, because his driving accuracy was awful at Torrey Pines, 43%. That's very, very bad. But here, you can kind of do the same thing, and you can still go after pins. So I'm not worried about it. And Rory had a decent iron week aside from the wedges. So we'll see. Data golf information for the week. Course fit. Number 1, Keen Trace Golf Club. I have no idea what the fuck that is. Number 2 is Bay Hill. And number 3 is Kiawah Island Resort, Ocean, where they're going to be for the PGA this season. That's that golf course. 2 golf courses Rory has won at the past. Just keep that in mind. Trending of the players in the field: Xander Schauffele, his last 3 starts, T17, T5, T2. John Rahm, T7, T7, T7. So a top 10 bet on John Rahm will probably win some money this week. And then Justin Thomas, T12, 3, and then he actually missed the cut in Abu Dhabi, but we'll talk about him in a second because I don't think that trend's going to continue. Percent chance to win, according to Data Golf, baseline, course history, and fit: John Rahm, 14% chance to win; Justin Thomas, 8.9% chance to win; and Xander Schauffele, 7.3% chance to win. Some of the betting odds, some of the favorites: According to DraftKings, as of right now, John Rahm sits at plus 600, Justin Thomas plus 750, Xander Schauffele plus 800, and then you get to Rory plus 1100, Webb Simpson plus 14, Daniel Berger plus 16, another great iron player, Hideki Matsuyama plus 2200, Harris English plus 2500, who's also a great ball striker, but has been playing like shit pretty much since he won. Sung J.M., another good ball striker, plus 3,300. Billy Horschel is a guy that always hangs around tournaments like this. If you go down, Will Z, plus 4,500. You get to Ricky Fowler at plus 5,000. Crazy. Brooks Koepka's also down there. The guys at 5,000, Ricky Fowler, Brooks Koepka, Bubba Watson, Matty Wolff. Like, that is gigantic. Odds at the bottom of that. Like, that's huge value. Value is the word I was looking for there. Huge value at the bottom of that list. So we might have to attack that maybe with some top 40 picks, because they might be plus odds probably for a top 30. I don't know about top 40, but we'll get into that. T9 card. Let's go over some guys. Justin Thomas is one guy that I'm definitely going to bring up here in this spot. He's coming off a missed cut in Abu Dhabi, but in my mind, I don't think there's a better ball striker on the planet, and that's going to be the most important stat at TPC Scottsdale. He's 6th in tee to green so far this year on tour. Last year at this tournament, he finished T3. The year before that, solo 3rd. Obviously, no value here for a top 20 bet for JT in this spot, just because he's one of the favorites, but you can get plus money. You can get plus money for him for a top 10. I believe you can get him at plus 110 right now on DraftKings. I would think about that, just because obviously recent history at this golf course. Plus, I think that missed cut, I wouldn't read too much into that. He was playing great golf before that. That was the week after the whole slur thing. A little bit distracted, long flight. I don't know if I would look too much into that missed cut. I just think he's too good of a ball striker not to play well at this golf course, and I think that's why he always does. His start before the solo 3rd in 2018, I still think was a top 30, if not a top 20 finish, maybe T28. One of the somewhere in there. So he's played well, trending. So I like JT in that spot. And then another guy, going back to the well kind of on this one. I know that I say that. I kind of go back to guys that have won me money in the recent weeks, and that's Max Homa. T3 here last year, so a top 10 finish. Had a top 30 finish in 2019. He lives here. He lives near Phoenix, so he is very familiar with golf in the desert. He had a top 20 at the Farmers. He was a 54-hole leader at the American Express before a shitty Sunday, and then he T12'd in Mayakoba the week before that. So he's playing very, very good golf. He's very trending. He's staying kind of in that same little zone. He has very good value still. Like, he's consistently inside the top 20 recently, and for a top 20 finish, you can get him at plus 335. Like, that's huge value. I don't know if I would take him at a top 20 when the odds come out. DraftKings doesn't have top 30 or top 40 right now. I think I'm depending on which one. If top 40 is still good value, like if they still give me plus 140 or up for a top 40 finish, like, I'm going to take that. If not, I might dabble in a top 30. I just think his game's in a good spot. His mind's in a good spot. He's playing good golf, has played well at this golf course very recently. So I think that all kind of adds up to a top 30 finish for Max. 2016, 2017 winner, Hideki Matsuyama. As of right now, he's 21st on tour in strokes gained tee to green. He made the cut at the Farmers, but didn't do much after that. Top 20s in the last 2 appearances here. So he's had very good, what is that? 4 out of the top of his last 5 starts here are top 20s, including 2 wins. So that he plays very well at this golf course. And like I said, this is a ball striker golf course, and he's one of the best ball strikers on the planet. Top 20 at Sony a couple weeks ago. And for a top 20 finish for Hideki, he's currently plus 120. So I just think he could take advantage of his ball striking. He's going to need to do something with the putter. Just his putting is so bad. But again, he's won here, and he's a terrible putter. So if he can get it even going a little bit on the greens, he'll be right there. Will Z is another guy that we're going to talk about. We already mentioned his name. T7 at the Farmers. 14 top 10 finishes since the start of 2020. He's 4th this season on tour in tee to green. Again, unreal ball striker. First start in this event. He's never started at TPC Scottsdale, but as of right now, for a top 20 finish, he's plus 175. So if you go down, if you're more comfortable with the top 30 for Will, that's still going to be plus value. I don't think a top 40 would be plus value, but I think that would be a good spot. And he's also in a good group, I believe. Let me see if I can bring up the matchups real quick. I think he's in group where is he real quick? He's in Group C with Ryan Palmer, Louis Oosthuizen, Scotty Scheffler, and Ricky Fowler. I think he could win that group. In that group, I'd probably pick Will or Ryan Palmer. Ryan's coming off a solid start at the Farmers, can take advantage of his distance at TPC Scottsdale, and is a good ball striker also. But I think I like Will Z a little bit more in that spot. So he's going to be a guy to watch. I mean, he's a top 10 machine, so a top 30, you can feel a little bit comfy, and we've won some money with Will before, so we'll see. Another guy that I don't think I've ever mentioned actually on this show before is Luke List. He's trending in the right direction. He had a T21 at the American Express, a top 10 last week at the Farmers. He's 24th on tour this season, tee to green. His last 3 appearances at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, he has 2 top 30 finishes. I probably like the same bet this week, or a top 40. Right now for a top 20, let me see if I can bring it up real quick. He's pretty far down on the list. Plus 350 for a top 20. So he's going to be plus odds for a top 40 finish. I like that. I think top 40 is solid. A little bit on the safe side with him trending in the right direction and good history at this golf course. I think you could probably get a top 30 out of him, but you're on the safe side with those kind of boys that can kind of be inconsistent with their play just a little bit, but he's trending in the right direction. I think you could probably get Luke List for a top 40. Sammy Burns. He's never made a cut here before, but we're still going to talk about him. He's coming off a nice week at the Farmers with a top 20 finish. This season on tour, he's 15th tee to green, 3rd off the tee while being one of the longest on tour. He's 14th in distance, so top 15 distance-wise on tour, which is huge. For a top 20 finish, he's going to be plus 275. So I don't know if he's going to be plus money for a top 40 finish. He will be for sure for a top 30 finish. A couple weeks ago, we lost some money on him, and then he's been playing great golf ever since. So again, I'm going to be more comfortable with probably a top 40 in this spot, even if it's like even money, just because he hasn't made a cut here before. I just think his recent form, and he can take advantage of his driver and his tee to green game here at this golf course at TPC Stadium. I just think that's a good spot for Burnsy. Huge name. We're ending with 3 big names here. Bubba Watson. So he missed the cut at the Farmers, but he hasn't really been playing that much golf. Like the last full field event that he played in before the Farmers was the Masters. He played in the QBE, but like obviously that's paired and it's only like 20 teams, I think, or something like that. So he's an interesting one to look at just because he hasn't been playing much golf. Before the Masters, I think he had top 10s at both the Zozo and the CJ. That was so long ago, though. That's tough to label as like recent form just because that was months ago. But 3rd on tour this season, tee to green, has back-to-back top 5s at this tournament. He's plus 200 for a top 20 finish, so a top 30 is going to be plus money, probably like plus 120. I think that's a good bet for Bubba. Recent form here is crazy good. I think his tee to green game is just too good not to give him chances at a lot of birdies at TPC Scottsdale. It's just if his putter goes to Phoenix too, because that's kind of his hurt. He kind of looks a little timid with the putter sometimes. So if he can get the flat stick going at least at all, Bubba's going to have a shot to win this golf tournament. I'm a little bit more comfortable in that spot with a top 30 probably for Bubba, but we'll see when the official betting article comes out on twilight9.com not Monday, that's today. Wednesday, late morning probably. Next guy, Sanjay M. At the Farmers on Sunday, he got it to 9 under. He was right there and then shot 42 on the back with 3 bogeys, 2 doubles, and a birdie on the last hole of his tournament. Crazy. Like the TV was like, in Twitter was like, oh, geez, here comes Sanjay. And then he makes the turn and goes, I think, bogey, double par, bogey, or a double, I think, or something like that. Like ridiculously bad golf. Like pros don't shoot 42s. It was crazy bad. But he's a fantastic ball striker. He's inside the top 50 this year on tour, tee to green. He has a top 40 here and a top 10 back in 2019. So he's shown form. I believe let me look at its top 20 real quick. So M you can get at plus 150 for a top 20. I don't think he's going to be plus odds for a top 30, so you'll have to roll the dice with him kind of bouncing back from that bad back 9 on Sunday and making a run at a top 20 finish. I think it can happen just because of his ball striking and his tee to green play. I'm a little bit more comfortable probably in that spot with the top 30. It'll probably be around even money or maybe like minus 110. I might take advantage of that. But I think just because of his ball striking ability, he could probably nestle his way up there to a top 20 finish. And then we have to finish with my guy, because when he's ever in the field, we have to talk about him. We're a Rory McIlory podcast. That's what we do. So Rory, he's 19th on tour this season, tee to green, and he's hitting it a long way right now. I think he's averaging like 323 off the tee, which is second on tour. He's just not doing it accurately, which again, I've said it already a couple of times on the show. This week's not about accuracy. Not really. You can miss in the rough and still be able to attack pins. And last week, he played with his absolute C game and should have finished inside the top 10. So I think if he gets the putter rolling, he really needs to work on that wedge play. His wedge play proximity needs to be way better than it is right now because it's not good at all. Right, it is dreadful. Mine's probably borderline better. So he's got to get those wedges in his hand quick. It doesn't feel right not to put a little bit money on my guy. And he's dropped down to 4th favorite. So there's value just because of that bad performance at Rory on Sunday. His value has dropped back a little bit. That also has to do something with recent performances by Xander. Obviously, he's up to the 3rd favorite, but Rory's down to 4th favorite. There's a lot of value. You can get plus 175 for him for a top 10 finish, which is huge value for a guy like Rory. And even just a top 20 finish is only minus 137, which is good value, man. Like, I don't see him finishing outside the top 20. So even if you just wanted to put a little money on minus 137 for that, I'm probably going to put him back in the card for a top 10 just because I think this course kind of fits his game. He can kind of take advantage of his length just kind of all over the place and not have to really worry about where the ball's going. I think he's going to have a good week even though he's never played here. So for now, guys, that's it. Make sure you guys are paying attention to the twilight9.com blog, just because that's where the official betting article is going to go. Wednesday, late morning, is going to be the official bets. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where the video format of the podcast goes on, and the Twilight 9 card video also goes on the YouTube channel. It also goes on the Instagram, at Twilight9pod on Instagram. All the videos go up there, show highlights, show announcements, other stuff. When I start doing reviews, I actually have a couple things that just came in that I'm going to be doing reviews on. That's all going to go on twilight9.com for you guys to check out. But yeah, guys, follow the Instagram at Twilight9pod. Pay attention to twilight9.com. Follow my personal if you want, at RileyHamill_. And actually, before we go, when you guys are listening, I was actually going to start it this week, but I moved it to next week for Pebble. We're going to start the listener pick segment next week on next week's show. So if you guys follow the Instagram at Twilight9pod and message me Sunday night, Monday morning, Monday early afternoon, like I usually record around like 2 or 3 Monday for the show release on Tuesday. If you guys just DM me 2 or 3 guys that you think can win the tournament next week. So next week it's going to be Pebble. So if you guys have 2 or 3 guys in your mind that you think can win Pebble, DM me those guys and I'll pick one person to mention on the show. And if that person predicts the winner of the tournament and gets it right, they get and I don't have it on me right now. Actually, I was supposed to have it. The Twilight 9 hoodie. We're going to be giving out Twilight 9 hoodies to guys that pick winners. So that's going to be awesome. So I don't have a fancy name for it yet. The listener segment pick. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but that's what it's going to be. So if you correctly pick the winner, you get a Twilight 9 hoodie, which is going to be awesome. Get those around to some of the listeners. The show's growing still, so that's sweet. And that's it, guys. So follow the Instagram at Twilight9pod, at RileyHamill_. We're going to recap the Waste Management, preview the AT&T Pro-Am, even though there's going to be no one there. And I will talk to you guys next week. Peace.